If you can be crystal clear on the expectations up front, then it almost doesn't matter what the policy is, no matter how harsh the policy is. If you're crystal clear with the expectations, then you have done your part in making sure that the person on the other side understands what the situation is. And then it's up to them to be adults about it.
It's about to go through tomorrow at midnight, and you have to create some guardrails and some guidelines and stick to them. And it's finding that perfect balance act.
We created our based off, we had conflicting policies, right? We can go on 30-day cancellation. Let's be strict on that one for sure, because that's even a bigger one. Oh, and we let them go on hold too. Great. All right. We just created our own loophole technically because they go on hold even with a set return date, 45 days from now or 60 days from now, whatever it is. They would say I got that. And then a month later say, actually, I'm not going to make that back.
What is happening, beautiful people? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Build Your Gympire podcast. You're in the right place if you're a gym owner, box owner, fitness pro that is looking to grow your gym, grow your business in ways that you, your community, the people you serve, your team, and not least importantly, your bank account are going to feel absolutely awesome about. Today, so I work with a bunch of gym owners in the agency side of things, right? And I get this question all the time. And so I thought, who better to ask than the guys that are running 8, 9, 10 facilities, whatever the heck it is between the two of you at this stage. Who better to ask about hold policies and freezes and little micro gym owner policy things that feel small, but I think can definitely make an impact in your business and can definitely be a point of, let's say, uncertainty for the budding gym owner. So I don't know how exactly to direct the question, but essentially, like, how do you guys handle things like holds, freezes? What do your policies look like in each of your respective businesses?
Great question. And I'm speaking from somebody that's trains really two subsets, clienteles under our roof with our adult fitness and then our athlete personal training. So we kind of have different policies for both, but our problem is scaling this across multiple facilities. And I just said the word problem. So for me, it was like, what problems did I want to have? When you have one location, it's a little more in-house. You can have probably a little more flexibility. When you start to get a little bit bigger, these problems magnify. And when you get bigger too, we talk about systematizing the business. So the more you divert from that system, the more problems you're going to have. And at which stage are these problems going to occur, if that makes any sense? So basically, we took all that into consideration when designing the system. Now that we do now is if on the adult side, we do not allow anyone to hold. And it's been instituted for the last 8 months or so, relatively friction-free, just because we're so clear on the expectations from the start. And I know that'll be echoed again and again, clear expectations from the start, not just telling them one time when they're signing up and you're telling them 15 other things as well. But we systematize of how many touch points do they get, what can they reference, how do we remind them of our policies for that. And so it's a 30-day cancellation notice that we hold them to. And if they're going to hold for a month or two, we just kind of have a good coaching conversation with them, see what we can do. And we've been proactive in that approach and it's worked really well. Athletes, same thing. We do not have them hold just because their seasonality is so different. And we have so many different options that we can put to them. So they're either with us, train with us, or they're not. The value of this too, big picture wise, is it allows you to scheme and allows you to plan your capacity, because we have a limited number of spots on our schedule. So it allows us to keep that schedule accordingly, staff it appropriately. And as you can see, I'm giving this information just because if I didn't have this policy in place, you could see how it affects these other things down the line. And I think that's what people need to understand is it's not just a little, hey, we're going to modify for this person, we'll just do this. That has an effect down the line. And if you're okay with that, fine. We chose not to be okay with it. And that's why we have these implemented right now.
And so just some,
or go ahead, Joe.
Well, I guess I was gonna say my question is, or just to clarify, there's zero holds, right, that go on at Power Strength. And basically, if I want to, hey, I'm going on vacation or I'm going to leave the country for a couple months or whatever it is, then I'm basically canceling the membership. Is that the deal?
Yeah, pretty much.
But on the opposite side of that, where you said a couple months, what if it's spring break or summer where I'm going for a short time, under 2 weeks? How are you handling that?
And so again, it's not 100% rigid, right? But we train up our general managers and our coordinators to have these conversations. And again, it's all down to that person and how maybe we can keep on a membership, but we adjust for this or extend it slightly, or we give them, some flexible sessions they can use, or we maybe give them some travel workouts to do. There's some extra value that we can provide with that, but it's not just like, oh, I'll be back in 2 months, and we set a date for them to return. And that's a good way for some people to do it too. We just didn't have as much success with that because 2 months go by and they forget what they said, even if it's in writing, and it just doesn't go as smoothly, which I know a lot of people do that and they're successful with it. At our level of scale, we just didn't want to have those issues and problems. So have the coaching conversation with them, read the situation, adhere to the policy the best you can if it doesn't fit. But if it's some obscure situation, of course, but just by having this policy, making it clear from the start, those seem to have gotten less and less, and it's much more adhered to because we're truly trying to work with them and truly trying to help them.
So in your case, I know we'll get to Connor's in a little bit, right? So Connor's got basically they buy a spot in the calendar, right? In the weekly calendar where they have a certain session. Mark, in your case, the scheduling is a little bit more flexible, right? They can pick from sessions that are available for their particular membership
That's
throughout the
correct.
week, essentially. Are you trying to coach up the managers to solve it by saying, hey, great, like you're going to be gone for spring break. You are a 12 a month member. So let's go ahead and get you 4 sessions the week before and 4 sessions the couple weeks after. Is that how you're coaching them through it, or what does that look like?
That could be one way, especially if it's before that bill hits, before that week hits of spring break, or they just, hey, drop down to 8 times that month, and we'll get you back on 12 when you get back. So that way you can retain your schedule. If they want to use it, they can. But again, it's just a good coaching conversation to have because our coaches will know if can they physically make it to more sessions, or are they strapped? Just that's why they're on that membership to begin with. So let's figure out if they have to downgrade, keep it the same, and so on and so forth. But it's again, the point of this is like it happens well before this happens. And it doesn't end. Try to avoid having it happen retroactively as much as possible because then you're never. It's almost like a lose lose. It's hard to have a good coaching conversation while adhering to that system if it's retroactive, if it's already taken place. So we try to get out ahead of that best we can.
Yeah. We're in a similar situation with our headquarters, with our larger facility. Definitely one of the selling points of our larger play hives facility is flexibility within scheduling and a certain level of customer service that we can afford to have in this location just because in our larger location just because of the capacity that we have. So obviously in every situation we want to continue the consistent recurring revenue and not have a hit on that. So we'll do things like GR said, like, hey, you're going to miss that, so why don't you come in and adjust your sessions the week after or the couple weeks after and make up for those sessions. And so there's no change in billing, it just continues to run as normal. That is best case scenario. We also in our Flayhouse facility, just because we have a lot more capacity and we don't need to be as tight as we do in our small group personal training studios. What we can do is just put them on a short-term hold. If it's something like under 2 weeks or anything like that. If it's 1 week, our managers and our coaches are coached up to just say, hey, why don't you come and make up that session? Just keep everything normal. If it's anything longer than 2 weeks, where probably we'll get into issues of making up those sessions, or it might just be impossible to make up all those sessions if they're like a 4 time a week person, then we'll put them on hold for 2 weeks. And then they'll get right back on the schedule when they get back from vacation or whatever it is. In terms of anything over 2 weeks, the way that we handle it is they have to have a return date. So if they say, hey, I'm going to be gone, I'm going to Europe to backpack across Europe for the entire month of June, and I'm going to be gone. If they say, hey, I will be back July 1st, put me back on. And then that's no problem at all. We'll just completely, quote unquote, delete the bill of June. And then their billing restarts July 1st. That's no problem. Now, if they give us open-ended to where it's just like, hey, I need to take some time off, I need a month off or so, I'll let you know when I want to come back. That's a cancellation for us. Now we'll have touch points that will be following up and reaching out to them to kind of get them back in. But we count that as a cancellation. We don't have open-ended, extended holds or anything like that. That's just a straight up cancellation. With our flex locations, again, you are buying time slots. We are a little bit tighter with in terms of capacity that we have just as Mark said, we have a set amount of spots and we really can't really do much about certain situations. Again, our facility leaders and our coaches are coached up to do everything possible. Like if they're going on vacation, we'll create workouts for them, send them to do in the hotel gym or anything or something like that. Or they can make up a certain amount of sessions within a quarter. For us at our flex locations, they can have 3 makeups per quarter. And then they're just reaching out to the coach or facility leader to do those 3 makeups, but the billing stays the same. I think that's the number one thing. It's finding that balancing act of being really tight with your customer or not tight, but really good with your customer service and not just a complete jerk off to where like you don't bend at all and people think you're a jerk, as well as making sure that you have to hit certain revenue, right? You have certain revenue goals, you have certain expenses, you have certain, you have payroll, rent, all that stuff. So you can't be so nice that people just take advantage of you and message you on Sunday night like, hey, I won't be here this week. Can you put my membership on hold? It's about to go through tomorrow at, midnight. And, you have to create some guardrails and some guidelines and stick to them. And it's finding that perfect balance act.
And so with flex, am I hearing that basically you guys don't do holds either? It's like there's 3 makeup sessions or
So if it's more than 2 weeks, if it's more than 2 weeks and it's a set return date, we will do a hold because anything more than that, it actually becomes like cumbersome for us to get them in for makeups.
sure.
So we would rather put it on hold and then get them right back to their normal schedule, normal billing, all that stuff after the hold.
And do you have are you charging for that? Is it a set period of time? Is there a limit for the amount of holds? What's that look like?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll do a 4-week limit over a 12-month period.
Yeah.
And again, just as every gym owner that would be listening to this can imagine, and Mark just said the same thing, it can be situational. You know what I mean? And hopefully none of my members are listening to this, but it can be situational, right? Like, so yeah, we say you can go if the hold would be 14 days and up, and you can go
Yep.
on hold for no more than 28 days in a calendar year.
Yeah. That was the exact same policy that we had back in. I think we called it 30 days instead of 28, which is probably fucking stupid, right? Because it makes sense for things to be on weekly cycles. That's typically how people travel. That's typically how sessions work, et cetera, et cetera. Like if I was going back in time, I'd probably do it that way as well. What's the cancellation policy for you, Connor, particularly at the flexes?
Yeah, we also do 30 days.
Okay, so 30-day cancellation. If they cancel within a given, if their bill date is 15 days from the time they're letting you know they're going to cancel, bill goes through. They have access to the gym throughout the rest of their billing period. That's their last bill. Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Super simple.
And
Yeah.
again, that could be tough for some gym owners to swallow and do.
Yeah.
And it can be situational again, but you want to just try to put up guardrails for yourself. And if it's for you, like, hey, you need the revenue coming in because you are the gym owner and you're the one taking all the risk. Now, on the flip side, like as you start to hire more people, like you need to create guardrails so that your people coming in to do those jobs are not expected, and you set the precedent where, hey, they'll text on Sunday night and expect to have their weekly bill removed for Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like now you start to have to put in some of those precedents and the guardrails for not only yourself, but also as you are hiring staff to do these certain roles.
I was waiting to say that because that is such a great
You
point
spoke
as
first,
well.
Mark.
Because when you start to systematize, it's systematize of like, all right, like you envision yourself doing it as a gym owner, but the second you start to grow and scale, whether that's staffing, I'm adding more staff or I'm adding roles, it still could be under one roof, but you're not the one handling potentially more, or you're physically growing to multiple locations. It's being able to detach and see the actual system for what it is. And just like what Connor said, as a gym owner, it's ours, it's our business. Like, we're going to adapt, we're going to think things through, we're going to go above and beyond, we're going to bend a lot more, probably, just to make it work for people. But the second you have somebody else handling that, they need a system to follow just so they can do their job in the right way. But also, when you remove yourself from the day to day and then you ask all these cancellations, holds, or I'm tracking our revenue, what's going on with this, and then they have a story for 15 different people, that's an issue that you don't want to have.
Yeah.
I'd say what I'm hearing from you guys and what we used to, and really we still do, even in the agency side of things, right? It's if you can be crystal clear on the expectations up front, then it almost doesn't matter what the policy is. Like, no matter how harsh the policy is, if you're crystal clear with the expectations, then you have done your part, right? In making sure that the person on the other side understands kind of what the situation is. And then it's up to them to kind of be adults about it. The other tip that I'll give, maybe the rookie, I shouldn't say not necessarily rookie, but the gym owner that's like fretting over this, is for me, because particularly back when I was like, I'm everybody's best friend in the studio, I'm still mayor of the gym, what have you. Or then even if you have team members that are now like the face and the deep relationship and everyone wants to be besties, is if somebody wants to cancel or go on hold or whatever, I'm sending them to a form, right? Oh, you want to cancel your membership? Oh man, so sad to see you go. Just fill out this form. And on the form, we had, here's what the policy is, a little bit of a dig that lets them know, like, if you cancel and you come back, you're probably going to pay more, because we do raise rates on new members, quite frequently. And then also, if you want to avoid this, please jump to our hold page form, right? And then on the hold form, I had all the little enforcements that maybe we as humans or people that are trying to be best friends with members don't necessarily always want to bring up. So, the hold form might say, all right, you can go on hold for up to 28 days for the year. Minimum hold time is 14 days. Please check the box of how long you'd want your hold to be. What is your desired return date? Or what's the start date of the hold? And then it's all like systematized within your gym member machine automation system, right? And it's all built for you. And now the form is being the bad guy, as opposed to like you necessarily having to have that conversation that may be a little bit more uncomfortable for you to have if you're just best friends with everybody. But I kind of feel like you guys just nailed expectation setting. There's some maybe nuance to it, but you've got to have a system in place. It sounds like you like going no hold is fine if you can set clear expectations. Having a hold policy, and I feel like the most common thing that I've seen has been that, all right, if you're going to go on hold and we're going to pause your bill, it needs to be a minimum of 2 weeks. So 1 week vacation, like figure out a way to make it up, or kind of tough shit. I'm not going to say it that way to the member, but that's sort of the end message. And then have those firm return dates, because indefinite holds are just cancellations, and I'm not going to hold a member spot. Like, they're going to come back and pay new rates if they don't want to have a set return date, and the member needs to be kindly reminded of that when they are making that consideration. So, any other notes on this, guys? Anything else you want to dive into on this
I have
issue?
two closing thoughts. One, going back to your own staff, like I said, the system that you have, like, and I've seen guys that are rigid with it, and I've seen guys that bend, worse than what I would used to bend for. And so I want to either coach them up, give them the tools to handle the job, but also I want somebody that can have clear communication and also maybe deal with a little bit of conflict or confrontation, I should say, that even if it's not confrontational, they feel like it is because it's uncomfortable for them. So we got to coach them up through that. So there definitely needs to be a process in place for that. Also, I always say again, what problems do you want to have, and then when do you want to have them? So going on holds, cancellations. I didn't want to sound super rigid, but here's why we did this too. We created our based off, we had conflicting policies, right? We can go on 30-day cancellation. Let's be strict on that one for sure, because that's even a bigger one. Oh, and we let them go on hold too. Great. All right. Well, we just created our own loophole technically, because they go on hold even with a set return date, 45 days from now or 60 days from now, whenever it is. They would say I got that, and then a month later say, actually, I'm not going to make that back. Here's my 30-day notice, and then they're just going to cancel anyways, right? Or worse, they say, I'll be back in 60 days. And then the time comes and they see their billing reminder, or we reach out to them, of course, and they say, actually, I need another 30, or actually, I need another 60. Actually, it's not going to work for me right now because they got out of that habit, they got out of that routine for whatever reason. So you end up just canceling them anyways, right? And that's as real life as I can keep it. We just wanted to kind of stop that. We wanted to give clarity, direct answer, and we wanted to basically make one through one funnel. If we want to deal with an issue, let's deal with it right now. If we're going to have a cancellation, let's deal with it sooner than later, and so on and so forth. Like I said, when you're more strict up front and you get more people to abide by it, then when you do have those separate issues, you're much more you're allowed to be more lenient because you built that in, right? So the person that has a legitimate issue or legitimate reason, yes, we can be flexible with that because the other 90% of people who are just trying to make an excuse or trying to find or get out weasel off a loophole, they can't do that anymore. So now we were able to serve them better in the long run and run a smoother operation.
Yeah. I'd also say for anyone that's worried about having these like tough conversations with members, 99.9% of the people that we're dealing with, meaning like our breed of gym owners, if you will, like your policies are infinitely more flexible and positive than, 90% of the other gyms out there. Like it is so hard to cancel these other memberships and they got 18-month contracts and 24 and 12 months, whatever it is. Like your policies, I used to say this all the time, is sell it as a positive because in reality, any of these policies are realistically way more positive than what they're getting anywhere else. So if you can say it with confidence and clarity, because as clear as kind, right, as Mark says, then you're going to avoid a lot of the issues from the crazies. And if nothing else, if you do have someone that gets crazy and gets grumpy about a hold or what have you, you have the and plausible deniability is maybe not necessarily the right word that I'm looking for, but I always look for how can I defend myself in a given situation if somebody goes online and says mean things. So if they say mean things about a hold, it's like actually we have a really flexible hold and cancellation policy. It's very clearly listed in your agreement. Every conversation, like we have recordings of the sales conversations. We went over this with you, like during your initial, consult with this. Is not something that's like hidden in the fine print. We apologize you're not, happy with it. However, we are a business and our hold and cancellation policies are actually probably some of the most flexible in the area. So sorry. And then anyone who is reasonable that goes through and looks at your reviews and sorts by worst, the lowest stars or the highest, and they see that and they see your adult response to that person, is going to say, okay, like that's totally reasonable. Like that's a defensible 1 or 2 star or whatever review. I'm still going to go ahead and book the consult, sign up, pay you guys a bunch of money at the end. So expectations, clear as kind, good stuff, gents. Love hugs. See you next week.